Welcome to part 2 of this introduction to Photoshop video. We're going to continue working on this project. Where we left off, we added a mask right here to this original image. And again, what this mask is doing is it is hiding the pixels that are here. The reason we would do this rather than just delete those pixels out there, because we could have done that, is because if we make a mistake and say we got rid of more than we wanted to, we still have the opportunity to bring those pixels back. Plus, you run into situations like we're about to run into here, where maybe we need those pixels in other layers, and we're going to do something a little bit different in this mask. So, one of the beauties of masks is it's non-destructive. It's basically, again, it's something where we can always get back to where we were. We're not permanently ruining anything where we have to do a whole bunch of work all over again. And that's kind of how I like to try to do things in Photoshop. You try to make it so that you don't have to redo as much as possible, and you kind of have backup plans. So that's what we're about to do right now. I want to duplicate this one layer that we currently have. So I'm going to hit Command and J at the same time. That's going to duplicate that. I could have also right-clicked on the layer and picked Duplicate Layer. You're going to do that quite frequently though, so I like holding down Command and tapping J. So what I want to do is I want to use one of these layers as basically a backup, so I'm going to name this one in the backup. So in order to do that, I double-clicked on the text itself, and that gave me the opportunity to rename this. I'm going to name this other one something that makes sense. In my case, this would be like Crosby. Alright, so I'm going to, on this Crosby layer, delete this mask. I want to be able to see the whole thing, and again, you'll see kind of why we're doing this in a moment. So I'm going to right-click on this mask itself, and I'm going to delete that layer mask. So now I'm back to this whole picture. I'm going to turn off this backup copy so I can kind of see what I'm doing here. We're going to add what's called an adjustment layer. So far we have layers that are just pixels. Adjustment layers work a little bit differently. They don't have pixels in them. What they're going to do is they're going to affect the pixels in all the layers below the adjustment layer. So this will make a lot more sense in a second here. So here's where we get our adjustment layers. First one we're going to add, let's do a black and white adjustment layer. So again, now all the layers below this adjustment layer are affected by this one, and that's why everything went black and white. Adjustment layers come with a mask, so you can see it right here. In this case, it's totally white. Well, if you remember how masks work, anything that's white, you can see that thing. Anything that's black, the mask kind of hides that part of it. So if I were to take my paintbrush, and let me move my history here. If I were to take my paintbrush and I paint black on a portion of the screen, so I'm going to make this brush bigger so you can see it, I'm bringing the color back to that portion because it's hiding this effect in that area of my screen. So I could paint black all over top of the part of the picture that I want to be in color, but even easier would be, well, we already have this mask that we created, and that's going to do the job for me. So first, let's just drag this mask over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Option, and I'm going to drag this mask up to this layer, and I'm going to drop it on there. It's asking, do I want to replace it? Well, yes, that one I just like kind of scribbled on, so definitely I'm ready to replace this. Hit yes. And now I kind of have the opposite of what I want, right? Because this is black and white, and the rest is in color. So I mean, that makes a cool effect, but it's not the one I'm going for. I want to do the opposite of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this mask, and I'm going to press Command I. That's going to invert this thing so that what was once white becomes black and vice versa. So now I have, this is white, or I'm sorry, this is in color, and then everything else is black and white. So let's do this again now with another adjustment layer. So these are kind of fun. You can kind of play with these things. Now, as far as this black and white layer goes, I can adjust the density. So I'm not going to probably see much of a difference here with this black and white one. And I can also feather things. And again, not going to see a ton of difference here for those two. But with some of these other adjustment layers, we will. Let's do posterize next. Now again, it's affecting everything, but I don't want it to. I want to leave this original picture alone. So what I want to do is I want to drag this mask from this one that we already inverted. I'm going to hold Option and drag it up and drop it on this layer. Again, I do want to replace it. So now it's only affecting that background. Now here is really one where I can kind of mess around and decide how much of this effect I want. So what I did is I clicked on this layer, and now in the properties window here I can adjust how many levels there are. Now the more levels there are, the less I'm going to see this effect. If I crank it all the way up, it's like I don't even have the effect on there. So I'm going to keep this fairly low. And again, there is no right number here. It's just how much do you want that effect, and what does your original picture look like? You can decide how much should that thing be blurred out. I can continue doing more of these adjustment layers. Let's do a gradient map. Let's try that one. Where's that at? There it is. So again, applying to everything. I'm going to only have it apply to part of it, and then I'll show you what this does. Yes. Alright, so what a gradient map does is it kind of puts colors over top of things. So I'm going to click on this here, and right now it's used in black and white. I want to change that, and you'll kind of see what these colors do in a second. So what I'm going to do is for the darker side, I'm going to make that maybe like a yellowish. Let's see what that looks like. I don't know if I'll like this or not. Yeah, that's too light, but I can see it here. Let's hit OK on this for a moment. It's taking the darker colors and it's turning them this color. It's right now the whites are still white, so I think what I want to do is I'm going to maybe go with more of a black for that. Maybe a real dark yellow, almost a black for mine. Now again, I wouldn't recommend this in your picture. It's just I have yellows in my pictures, so that's where I'm getting this from. And I kind of like that effect. That's kind of neat. It kind of matches this yellow here. I could go to this white one and again just kind of try things. I can try more of a yellow. Now if I want to pick a color like what's on his jersey, if you notice in Photoshop when I move my mouse outside of this window, it automatically turns into the eyedropper. So I can eyedrop as I'm dragging my mouse button down here these different colors and see if I like any of these. So now when I hit OK, let's see how that updates. And now the rest of that's dark. So depending on what you want, how dark you want to make this, I'm going to mess around with this a little more. I'm going to go a little lighter with that. And I'm kind of liking that. Again, you could also kind of skip this effect. If I want to see what this looks like, so I hit OK on there. If I want to see what it looks like without that one, I can turn that one on and off. So in the last video, we will look at doing the lettering on this, but basically at this point, what you want to try are some of these different adjustment layers and just kind of see what you like. Again, you want to leave the original picture alone, so that's why we have this mask on all these, which is basically saying if it's black, don't use that effect on that part of the screen, and where we have blacked out is where our original character is, where our original person is.